Let's go now to Andrew Kruczkiewicz. He is a meteorologist who studies sustainable, resilient living at Columbia University's International Research Institute for Climate and Society. Andrew, thank you for being with us. Your work focuses on extreme rainfall, community resilience. What were the expectations and how accurate thus far have they been?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I mean, we're really, throughout the day today, we're going to be learning more and more about the extent and magnitude of the devastation, not only in Jamaica, but across the region. This is really a regional event that's leading to different types of impacts in different types of areas. Fortunately, the forecasts, initially, there were some questions about the track, but in the last few days before landfall, and even now, we're really seeing the data show us honing in on the track and also on the extent and the timing of impact. So fortunately, there were opportunities to prepare, and the governments in Jamaica and Cuba are doing a good job in preparing and now shifting to response and recovery.
In terms of the infrastructure situation, we heard that connectivity was a problem, that, the Wi-Fi and other ways of communication were knocked out. Of course, we talked about the electricity as well. Will Jamaica, or have you seen so far that the authorities there will have a good response and be able to figure out how to restore these services quickly?
Yes, the answer is yes. I mean, as we heard from the minister in in the first clip there, and also what I am seeing is that yes, they are activating, and there are plans in place. There are standard operating procedures for hurricanes. Now, Melissa is a unique storm. It is one of the strongest storms, and is also leading to very intense not only winds but also extreme rainfall and associated hydrometeorological hazards such as flash floods and landslides. Now, with the telecommunications element, unfortunately, the areas that are the most isolated, the most vulnerable, are usually the first to lose telecommunication services, and also the last to get them back. So this means that we're going to be learning over the course of days, of the extent of impacts, and especially in these most isolated and most vulnerable areas. So yes, the governments are already activating, and they're doing a good job. But it will be days for us to get a better sense, a fuller picture of the impact.
I know there's been a lot of discussion about the strength of this storm, and that storms seem to be getting stronger and stronger over the past decade. So how should communities prepare for the storms of the future? Is there something that they should be doing that we're just not aware of or not doing adequately now?
Well, as Alex mentioned, I mean, this is a very wet hurricane. We're seeing very intense rainfall associated with Melissa, and this is something we're seeing with many hurricanes. Looking back to when I was a meteorologist, just learning more about the science behind hurricanes, and also the way that they were communicated, that risk was communicated, was very much focusing on the category level, the wind speed, and then perhaps a little bit more with Sandy, thinking about the storm surge. But what we're really seeing now are these wetter hurricanes, and we must think more, not only in different ways to assess and forecast these rainfall-related risks, such as flash floods and landslides, but also think about how that risk is evolving over time, and to what extent this is linked to changes not only in our weather systems and climate systems, but also in socioeconomic conditions, the way that we build cities, the way that we build impervious surfaces. There are factors, there are many ingredients, which lead to disasters happening, and these really come together when we're talking about flash floods and landslides.
Yeah, and you can't help but wonder about, as we build in the future, when you talk about the Outer Banks, we saw recently in North Carolina, coastal real estate in Florida, and of course, New Orleans. But to Jim's point, real quick, before we let you go, do you have any data that supports that notion that climate disasters are getting stronger and are getting more frequent?
Well, it's a complex question, and it's particularly complex when we're talking about hurricanes because there's many dynamics at play. Something that we can say is, as the atmosphere warms, the capacity to hold water vapor increases. That's a general dynamical relationship that we know. Now, for hurricanes, there are many things at play. You need to have certain conditions related to wind shear. There are different ways that high pressure and low pressure systems influence the strength of hurricanes and also the types of impacts associated with hurricanes. So, yes, we are continuing to monitor the evolution of risk of hurricanes, and certainly not only long term climate shifts, but also interannual variability and decadal variability. These are different modes of change. All of these have influence on what the hurricanes of the past have looked like, what the hurricanes of the present look like, and what the hurricanes of the future will look like.
Well, it's going to be a long road there in Jamaica. Andrew Kruczkiewicz from Columbia University. Really appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you, sir.